What is going on, Internet? Nerdlocker.com here with this week's comic book reviews. And I'm starting off with Inhuman #1. I've been waiting a long time for this. When this is announced during Infinity, I couldn't wait to read it because I love the Inhumans. And the fallout of Infinity was so just giant with the Inhumans, and we've seen it happen all over the Marvel Universe here. I couldn't wait to see what the main series was going to be about. And this really sets up for a lot of story. Like, I don't want to get... I want you guys to read this. We got someone in the comments a while back saying they were mad we didn't give away enough spoilers in our comics. And it's just something I don't like doing that. I don't like being... I know we don't like being that group that does that. So I really want you to read this. Charles Soule does an awesome job. The artwork by Joe Mad is perfect for this book. And just the overall tone, like what they're setting up for with the Inhumans, is outstanding. They just talk about different tribes, how Black Bolt and Medusa were the king and queen, but that's not how all of the Inhumans looked at that world. And it just sets up for something really cool. And I feel like this is something that the Marvel Universe needs, like outside of just the main stuff going on. I really just hope this book does great. I can't say enough good things about it. Everyone should pick it up and read it. I'm giving it 5 out of 5 Nerd Skulls.
Hey fellow nerds, Jasper here, and I just got done reading What If Age of Ultron issue 1. The last Avenger not being Captain America, as Hank Pym pretty much goes through a desolate world where Ultron wins the battle. And you go through the whole world and you see how desolate and destroyed it's become. You see different incarnations and evolutions of Ultron. But, you know, overall, the book itself is a Dear John letter to Wasp. And, you know, Pym himself is broken down and is trying to keep his sanity, pretty much fighting Ultron as much as he can, knowing that he really can't beat him. Overall, the book was okay, but it's not necessarily something I would jump on. It's an interesting scenario with it being a what if, but nothing that I would leave, or at least the book leaving lasting impression on me. So I'm giving it a 2.5 out of 5 Nerd Skulls.
Hey there nerds, Jim here with my comic book reviews. And first up we have Aquaman and the Others #1. Now if you saw my review last week of Aquaman #29, you know I'm getting a little tired of not cool stories going on. So when they have a second book with Aquaman, I'm like, really? They can't even do great work in the first one, so why is there a second one? I was pleasantly surprised. I'm not saying it's the best thing out there, but I'm saying it's intriguing and it's starting out nice. Basically, it shows a little backstory 1,000 years ago with King Atlan, basically how the artifacts got formed, which is the artifacts are what each member of the Others has, and that's what makes them a team, and that's basically the only thing that makes them a team. So flash forward to the present, and somebody, we don't know who yet, is trying to go after the artifacts and steal them. But at times, it doesn't appear like they're working too hard to do this, so it's like, okay, what is going on here? Not only that, the artifacts have lost power themselves. Only Arthur, only his trident works, but it's because he's tied to Atlantis, and it works just fine. So the team comes back together trying to figure out who's trying to steal the stuff and why things aren't working. It's interesting. I'm intrigued. I will definitely check out #2, but it's still not what I wanted when Jeff Johns was on the run. So it's good, but not great. So I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5 Nerd Skulls. Check it out. I'm very curious to see where Dan Jurgens takes this team.
All right, guys, I got to read Magneto #2, and 2 issues in, this book is outstanding. We got Magneto just on the hunt, looking for people doing wrong by mutants. And it's really cool because he's just relating the struggle back to the other struggles he's had in his life. There's a scene where we see him during the Holocaust, and during World War II and the Holocaust, and just how he survived then, and what it meant to him that he survived something like that and is here today. And it kind of gives you a deeper look into the character that is Magneto. And it's awesome. This book is really good. The thing I really like most about this is I guess he's been an anti-hero lately, not really a villain, but they don't really hold back. Like, he's murdering people in this book, but because it's what he thinks is the right thing to do. And I really have a lot of hope for this book. I hope it stays on point. You know, some of these books tend to just kind of fall off after a couple issues, but I really have high hopes for this. I'm giving it 5 out of 5 Nerd Skulls. Let me know what you guys thought.
So I finished reading Guardians of the Galaxy Prelude Issue 1. Ladies and gentlemen, we realize that Guardians of the Galaxy is coming out on August 4th. But to recap and to pretty much do an overall explanation of who these characters are, seeing as a lot of people don't know who the Guardians of the Galaxy are, Marvel has decided to do a series of books, which focuses on Nebula. Not necessarily all the other characters, but pretty much, you know, the fan favorites. So Nebula is pretty much going through recollections of, you know, her past, as her and Gamora pretty much are training and fighting alongside each other, and respectively, you know, learning off each other. You learn the dynamics of why Thanos and them have a relationship. But it doesn't get too thorough with the book. It just pretty much shows the balance and the dynamics between, you know, the whole group of Thanos, Nebula, and Gamora. But it pretty much doesn't show anything other than that. What's cool about it is you find out their competitiveness towards each other, and you ultimately find out why Gamora pretty much has the metallic robotic arm. It's pretty neat. You know, it's a great introduction for the, you know, ultimate end, which is the actual movie. But I definitely say read it, because second issue is going to be all about Rocket Raccoon and Groot. So I'm giving it a 4 out of 5 Nerd Skulls. Definitely check it out.
So I got to read Terminator Salvation, The Final Battle, number 5. I love what J. Michael Straczynski is doing with this book, and basically the history or future, depending on how you look on it, of the Terminator. Last we saw John Connor and his ragtag group have attacked basically Cyberdyne, and it's really cool because now we see Thomas Parnell come in, and he's now live with the Terminators, and he's a serial killer, so he's loving it. And it's funny because you see from John Connor's point of view, the Terminators are acting unlike they've ever acted before, and it almost appears like they enjoy killing. Whereas the machines themselves don't care. They just do what they're programmed to do. So it's an interesting perspective. We see John basically sending Kyle Reese back to the past. And there's this great line, I'm not going to ruin it for you, but this great line with father-son. Father has no idea that's the son, and he's being sent back in the past. And it's classic. It's basically what we all talk about with, well, what happened with Kyle? What happened to the first story? It's just very interesting. I really enjoy this book. The timeline has changed. John is getting an inkling that it's going that way. Even Dr. Kogan realizes, as basically the last human who's working with the Terminators, she might not be able to do that. It's interesting. I highly recommend you read this. I love this series. 5 out of 5 Nerd Skulls.
All right, I got to read Action Comics number 30. I've actually been enjoying this book lately. I wasn't for a while there. It's been kind of hit or miss. But Greg Pak seems to have a handle on what's going on. And this is the prelude to Doomed, which is supposed to be like the new 52 version of the death of Superman. They didn't say he's going to kill him, but it's a big Doomsday-heavy story. We see Doomsday in the beginning, but that's about all we get from him until towards the end. I'm not going to give anything away, but you see him towards the end. But this is just Superman. You really get to see more of his moral side. This ghost army he's been fighting has been just destroying him and interfering in everything he's been doing. And the leader actually kind of sits Superman, or doesn't sit him down, but tells him, like, you know, well, we did this because you did this, and we did this because you did this, and who's the real bad guy here? And towards the end, you know, he's still the Boy Scout, and he has his Boy Scout moment, but the Ghost Army kind of looks at him and is like, all right, if that's the way you want to play this, this is what's going to happen. And it's cool because I think it sets up for, you know, more Superman stories down the line, and I think it's an awesome group of villains, or anti-heroes, or whatever you want to call them, people that fight Superman. And honestly, I have a lot of hope for Doomed, so I'm hoping everything pays off. I'm going to give this book 3.5 out of 5 Nerd Skulls.
So one of my favorite series, Quantum and Woody, number 9 came out this week, and it's interesting. It still has the humor back and forth with Eric and Woody, and this time Eric is trying desperately to get Woody to act like an adult. So he comes up with a checklist of everything they're going to do in a day to make Woody an adult. The reason, not just all 8 issues that happened before this, is it starts out with Woody trying to save the city with these robots from the laid off NASA workers, and they're basically trying to rob a bank, but then they realize that the robots go really slow, so they make it like 4 blocks. But Woody basically destroys the city, Washington, D.C., in hopes of stopping the robots. But not only that, Quantum comes on the scene thinking the robots are destroying, rips open and finds Woody in there. He's like, well, I wasn't just going to let this go. I wanted to test these things out myself. And it's like, dude, really? So that's why Eric decides Woody needs to be an adult. They go through all these things. Woody fails almost every single one, and it's funny. Quantum doesn't want to have anything to do with him. They sort of separate, but they can only separate for 24 hours because they got to clang bands. We know that. And basically, as they're separated, they're clearly going to have to come together, but not in the way you think. They're going to be at opposing sides. It's very interesting. I love the humor in this book. ERA makes another appearance. They're trying to recruit. They admit that they've been decimated, so they've lowered their standards. I just love this book. It's hilarious. James Asmus just keeps knocking out of the park. Highly recommend it. 4 out of 5 Nerd Skulls.
All right, I got to read Swamp Thing number 30, and this was a book I was stoked on when it first came out with Scott Snyder, and I'm really happy that it's held up since he left the book. It's been great so far. Charles Soule's writing this again. He was doing another book I did today. But last issue, we found Alec Holland without a body, or without his body. He's in a human body now, and he's trying to find a way back to his body before he can't connect anymore, and then there won't be an avatar. They do something really uncomfortable. Just a little side note to the whole story. This group they're chasing, there's only one member. It turns out that the group that was there are not that group. And he cuts Alec Holland to see if he is the Avatar, and it's like he starts to have vines come out of this cut, and it's really just uncomfortable. But sorry, it really made me uncomfortable. It was disgusting. But this book is awesome. Like, I like the direction it's going in. I'm glad that they really are cementing Swamp Thing as a character in the new 52 universe, and it's not just going to end up another side character that exists, kind of like Stormwatch suddenly became, which bums me out. But yeah, you guys, you should definitely be reading this book. It's really good. I feel like it's not getting as much recognition as it should, so you guys should be checking it out. I'm giving it 4 out of 5 Nerd Skulls.
So finally this week I got to read Archer and Armstrong number 19. I'm a huge fan of this book. I think Fred Van Lent has done an amazing job with history, assimilating religion, now bringing in basically the mainstays of the Valiant universe. And I love Armstrong. He's basically hooked up with the sect that they've put together and that put Archer in charge, and they're all idiots. And he's coming to find out they're idiots and that they've been battling idiots. And it's funny to see how, in God's name, have they survived this long. So he basically has no idea how to work with them, but he's on his way to save Archer. Archer, picking up from the last issue, is still fighting the hardcore in his sleep, which is interesting, but he's got sonic powers, so he can do whatever he wants, and it's interesting because he basically just takes them out. But we realize once he wakes up, it's not malicious. He's basically just defending himself. There's a traitor in the midst, and you kind of see it coming, but at the same time, you don't. So it's very cool, and at the end, he helps Armstrong, which is really, really cool. I really like that. I love the religious implications in this. I love where basically Archer's trying to get vengeance on Kazal and take him down for everything that's ever happened to him. So I highly recommend you read this book. Again, I love Valiant. I really think you need to check this out if you haven't. The series of books that they have are fantastic. Now the way they're assimilating some of my favorite comics into these mainstay universe is just fantastic. Highly recommend. Archer and Armstrong. I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 Nerd Skulls.
All right, I got to read Detective Comics number 30. This is the brand new team of Francis Manipal and Brian Buccellato. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm probably not. but you're an outstanding artist. And I love that you guys came to Batman because they did such a good job on Flash. I was excited to see them kind of transition to an obviously darker character like Batman. And I've been a huge fan of what John Layman was doing on this, so I'm hoping they can, keep up with it. First off, the artwork is absolutely outstanding. I love it. I absolutely love his artwork so much. And the story is cool because we set up a lot for the upcoming issues. I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to give anything away. Something happens towards the end, or at the end of this book that is just like, okay, well, what's going on here? But it's just the storytelling's very smooth. The artwork is great, and that's what I like about this team is they work so well together. And I'm excited to see them take on Batman and Gotham, away from the Flash and Central City, and just have a darker tone. I think it's going to be awesome. I'm very excited for these two to do this run, and I think everyone should be reading it. I'm giving it 5 out of 5 Nerd Skulls.